You're busy. I get it. Meetings, deadlines, emails piling up. Your to-do list is basically a never-ending game of whack-a-mole. But what if I told you that most productivity advice out there is wasting your time? Yeah, the color-coded planners, the fancy time-blocking methods, the wake up at 5 a.m. and meditate for an hour routines. None of that actually works if your schedule is already bursting at the seams. What you need isn't another rigid system that makes you feel like a failure when you can't stick to it. You need pragmatic productivity, hacks that actually fit into your fast-paced life and help you get more done without burning out. In this video, I'm breaking down real-world productivity strategies designed specifically for busy professionals. No fluff, no generic advice, just straight-to-the-point, actionable methods that will change how you work. And here's the kicker. Some of these strategies might even feel counterintuitive. But trust me, once you start using them, you'll wonder why you ever did it any other way. So if you're ready to work smarter, not harder, and finally take control of your time without sacrificing your sanity, stick around, because what you're about to learn could completely shift the way you approach productivity. Number 1. Pragmatic productivity hacks for busy professionals. Here's something that might sound a little crazy, but stick with me. What if I told you that your deadlines are lying to you? Yep, those seemingly final, unchangeable dates. They're just suggestions, and the real problem, you believe them. Now, I know what you're thinking. But deadlines are deadlines. They're non-negotiable. And that's exactly where most people go wrong. Because the truth is, deadlines are only as real as you make them. And that's where the fake deadline trick comes in. We've all been there, staring at a deadline that's still a week away, feeling like we have all the time in the world. So what do? We procrastinate, we scroll, we snack. We suddenly decide that organizing our email inbox is the most urgent task of the day. Then, before we know it, that distant deadline is tomorrow, and we're drowning in stress, caffeine, and regret. It's a vicious cycle, and the worst part, we keep falling for it. Here's how you break free. Lie to yourself. No, really. Take every real deadline you have and set a fake one, way earlier than necessary. If a project is due Friday, tell yourself it's due Wednesday, but don't just think it. Write it down, tell your team, mark it on your calendar like it's the law. The trick is to convince your brain that this new deadline is the real one. You see, your mind is weirdly obedient. If you give it a closer, more urgent deadline, it adapts, it kicks into gear, and suddenly you're finishing things days ahead of schedule instead of at the last possible minute. I learned this the hard way. A few months ago, I had a massive project due at work. I figured I'd pace myself, get it done in chunks. Except, spoiler alert, I didn't. Instead, I kept telling myself, plenty of time, until I had exactly 24 hours left and zero motivation. That's when I tried something new. For my next project, I set a fake deadline, 3 days before the actual one. I even told my boss it'd be ready by then. Guess what? It worked. I finished early, got time to review my work, and for the first time, I didn't feel like I was sprinting to the finish line with my sanity barely intact. Now, I know what you might be thinking. But won't I just procrastinate until my fake deadline too? Not if you commit. The key is to trick yourself into believing it's real. Announce it. Create pressure. Give yourself consequences for missing it, like rewarding yourself only if you stick to it, or setting up a system where others expect it from you. The more real it feels, the more effective it becomes. This isn't just about time management, it's about taking control. When you master deadlines instead of letting them master you, you're reclaiming your focus, your productivity, and let's be honest, your peace of mind. Because scrambling at the last minute? That's exhausting. But finishing early? That's power. So try it. Set your fake deadline, commit to it, and enjoy the rare but glorious feeling of being ahead of the game. Number 2. The selective ghosting method. You don't have to reply to every message. I know, shocking, right? But hear me out. We live in a world where instant responses are expected, where a little seen notification can make us feel guilty for not replying within 0.2 seconds. But what if I told you that ignoring certain messages could actually make you more productive, less stressed, and, dare I say, even more respected? Welcome to the selective ghosting method, the art of strategically not replying. Now, before you panic and start thinking, but I can't just ignore people, let's be honest. We all get messages that don't actually need a response. The unnecessary follow-ups, the vague, "Hey, how's it going?" from someone you barely know, the endless group chats debating weekend plans you're not even attending. And let's not forget work emails. Oh, the never-ending chain of "just checking in" or "circling back on this." If you replied to everything the moment it came in, you'd spend your entire day trapped in a digital loop of obligation. So here's the trick. You don't. You selectively ghost, not out of rudeness, but out of efficiency. You filter. You ask yourself, does this require my attention right now? Is this urgent? Will the world collapse if I don't respond? If the answer is no, let it sit. You are under no contract to be available 24/7. Sometimes silence is the answer. And you know what happens? People figure things out on their own. The urgent request magically resolves itself. The unnecessary chatter fades. And you get your time and mental energy back. I started doing this when I realized my productivity was being hijacked by other people's agendas. I'd be deep into an important task, fully focused, and ping, a message pops up. Suddenly, I'm derailed, responding, and before I know it, I've lost 20 minutes and my flow. So I stopped. I let non-urgent messages sit. At first, I felt guilty. What if people thought I was being rude? But then something interesting happened. The important things. They found their way to me. The trivial question mark, they disappeared. And the best part? No one actually cared. In fact, people started valuing my time more. This isn't about ghosting everyone, it's about being intentional. You still respond when it matters, you still engage when necessary, but you stop being available by default. Because when you do, something powerful happens. You take control of your time instead of letting other people take it from you. So the next time you feel that knee-jerk urge to reply instantly, pause. Ask yourself, does this deserve my time right now? If not, let it sit. Reclaim your focus, your energy, and your sanity. Because not every message needs a reply, and not every moment of your life needs to be interrupted. Number 3, the 90% done, ship it rule. Perfection is a trap. And if you don't believe me, think about how many projects, ideas, or even simple emails you've delayed because they weren't quite ready. You tweak, you refine, you obsess over tiny details that no one else will notice, until suddenly, days or weeks have passed, and that thing you were so excited about, it's still sitting in draft mode. Here's a hard truth. Done is always better than perfect. That's where the 90% done, ship it rule comes in. Now, I know what you're thinking, but I want my work to be great. Of course you do, we all do. But here's the problem. Perfectionism disguises itself as high standards when, in reality, it's just fear wearing a fancy suit. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of not being good enough. So we stall. We tweak endlessly, convincing ourselves that just one more edit will make all the difference. Spoiler alert, it won't. That last 10%, it's the black hole where momentum dies. We've all been there. You spend hours, days even, crafting something. Maybe it's a presentation, a video, a report. And instead of wrapping it up and moving on, you start obsessing over minor details. The font size, the transition speed, whether you should use however or but. And before you know it, you've spent an extra 3 hours on something that literally no one will care about. Meanwhile, that energy could have gone into something new, something that actually moves you forward. That's why the 90% done, ship it rule works. You get something solid, polished and functional, but instead of agonizing over the tiny details, you release it. You post the video, send the email, launch the project. Because guess what? If it's really not good enough, you'll fix it later. But in most cases, that last 10% is just your brainstorming. I learned this the hard way with a video project. I had everything done, the pacing, the cuts, the color grading, but I kept tweaking. I'd adjust the audio mix, then undo it. I'd swap a transition, then switch it back. Before I knew it, 2 extra days had gone by and nothing had actually improved. Finally, I just hit export. And you know what happened? Nothing. No one noticed the things I was stressing over. The video performed just fine, and I realized I could have saved myself 2 days of unnecessary stress by trusting that 90% is more than enough. This isn't about settling for mediocrity, it's about escaping the perfectionist spiral that keeps you stuck. Because momentum beats perfection every time. The people who succeed aren't the ones who make things flawless, they're the ones who actually finish. So the next time you catch yourself over-editing, overthinking or delaying, stop. If it's 90% there, ship it. You can tweak later, if it even needs it. But more often than not, you'll realize it never did. Number 4, the task blackmail. Hack. You ever make a deal with yourself? One of those "I'll do it later" promises that somehow turns into never. Yeah, same. Our brains are master procrastinators. We negotiate, we justify, we push things off until we're suddenly drowning in unfinished tasks and stress. That's why you need task blackmail, a little psychological trick to outsmart your own laziness. Here's how it works. You set a consequence for not finishing a task, and it has to be painful enough to force you into action. Not just mildly annoying, but something that actually makes you uncomfortable. Maybe it's sending money to a cause you hate if you don't finish that report by 5 p.m. Maybe it's texting your most annoying friend and agreeing to hang out if you skip your workout. The key is simple. Make the cost of inaction worse than the effort of just doing the task. Now, I know what you're thinking. Isn't this just forcing myself to be productive? Yes, exactly. Because let's be real, we don't always operate on motivation. If we did, gyms wouldn't be full of people in January and empty by March. We need stakes. Real, tangible, slightly uncomfortable stakes. It's the same reason deadlines work so well. The fear of missing a submission date is often stronger than our desire to watch one more episode of literally anything. I once had a project that I kept delaying, justifying it with excuses like, "I need to be in the right mindset," or "I'll start after lunch." Days passed. Nothing happened. So I made a deal with myself. If I didn't finish by 6 p.m., I had to post a cringy, embarrassing old photo of myself on social media. The thought alone made me work faster than I had in weeks. And guess what? The project got done, because the fear of humiliation was stronger than my urge to scroll aimlessly through my phone. This isn't about being harsh on yourself. It's about understanding how your brain actually works and using it to your advantage. When you tie a consequence to inaction, your brain stops seeing the task as optional. It becomes a priority. So, if you've been avoiding something, blackmail yourself. Set a consequence so unbearable that doing the task becomes the easier option. It's weird, it's ruthless, and, most importantly, it works. Number 5, the energy slotting system. You ever have one of those days where your to-do list is full, but your energy level is running on fumes? So instead of tackling your most important tasks, you somehow end up reorganizing your bookshelf or watching just one more episode of a show you don't even care about. Yeah, we've all been there. The problem isn't laziness, it's mismatched energy, and that's exactly why you need the energy slotting system. Instead of forcing yourself to power through tasks at the wrong time, you match your work with your energy levels. Think of your energy like different time slots in a day: high energy, medium energy, and low energy. The trick? Slot your tasks accordingly. Don't waste peak energy hours answering emails or scrolling through your phone. Use that time for deep work, the stuff that actually moves the needle. Save the mindless, easy tasks for when you're running low. Now, I know what you're thinking. But what if I don't know my energy levels? Trust me, you do. You know when you're on fire, when your brain is sharp and ideas flow effortlessly. That's your high energy slot. You also know when you feel sluggish, when even typing an email feels like climbing a mountain. That's your low energy slot. The mistake most people make: they try to do their hardest work when they're running on fumes. No wonder productivity feels impossible. I learned this the hard way. I used to schedule my most complex work late at night, after a long day of meetings, chores, and distractions. Every time I'd sit down, stare at the screen, and feel my brain completely shut down. Then, one day, I flipped my schedule. I put my deep focus tasks first thing in the morning when my energy was at its peak. And guess what? Tasks that used to take hours suddenly took half the time, all because I was working with my energy instead of fighting against it. This isn't about squeezing more productivity out of yourself. It's about working smarter, not harder. When you align your tasks with your energy, everything flows better. You don't have to force motivation because you're doing the right work at the right time. So stop treating your energy like an unlimited resource. Start slotting it wisely, because when you do, you'll get more done, with less stress, and still have energy left for the things that actually make life enjoyable. Thank you for watching. I hope this video gave you some practical, no-nonsense productivity hacks that you can actually use in your busy life. If you found this helpful, do me a favor. Hit that like button so more people can discover these strategies. And if you're all about working smarter, not harder, subscribe for more insights on productivity, efficiency, and making the most of your time. Know someone who's drowning in deadlines? Share this video with them. It might be exactly what they need to turn things around. Also, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let me know which hack resonated with you the most, or share your own go-to productivity tip. Let's build a community of high achievers who get things done without the burnout. Remember, productivity isn't about doing more. It's about doing what truly matters in the most effective way. Stay focused, stay intentional, and I'll see you in the next one.